Should a therapist self-disclose their struggles, symptoms, and/or diagnosis? And if so, when, where, and how should they do it? Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Reicheter, and today I'm joined by Lauren Larkin, a licensed New York City therapist specializing in eating disorders. In this episode, we follow Lauren's journey from living with an eating disorder to seeking treatment and ultimately establishing her own private practice as a licensed therapist. Join us as we navigate the intricacies of normalizing appropriate self-disclosure in therapy, aiming for a deeper connection and validation. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited for our conversation, but before we begin, I just want to check in. How are you really?
Great question. I am good. I am really busy and I am juggling work. And I'm also in the process, I didn't tell you this before when we met because it hadn't happened yet. I'm in the process of freezing my eggs. So I'm doing like shots at nighttime and like I'm super bloated and I'm like taking it super easy. So when you asked that question, I was like, that's kind of the first thing that pops into my mind. I'm good. And there's a lot of stuff going on.
I've been following your Instagram stories. So you've been talking about the process of freezing your eggs. And something I love and admire about you is that you're so vulnerable online, which is very rare, I would say, for a therapist. We're kind of taught, at least in school, what I'm taught is avoid self-disclosure, avoid talking about your mental health and your life online. So to see how open and vulnerable you are, I think that just really ties together the value of lived experience with the education, with the training, and being able to really just connect with your clients.
Totally. I know it's such an interesting journey that I've been on. I actually just answered this question on my Instagram because someone who is a fellow therapist was asking about the self-disclosure. And I said, I've always shared that I have an eating disorder to eating disorder patients because I actually was encouraged to from my training, my therapist supervisor, the therapist I was working for, who was my supervisor at the time, said, you know, you have this out there in certain places. I had like written a blog on it, similarly to like you blogging and sharing your experience. And he was like, what do you think your client would say if they Googled it and found it? And they've been sitting here with you and sharing all of the details and the struggles that they're going through with their eating disorder, and you never said anything. They, so they suggest that we don't self-disclose because we don't want to like impair the therapeutic relationship, right? But I think that sometimes not self-disclosing, especially when they could find that information elsewhere, could also rupture or create difficulties in the therapeutic relationship. Like that could create like a sense of mistrust, with the client. So I've always shared that. And now I'm just getting into this crazy world of social media, which like you have so many followers on Instagram, you probably feel like tenfold this stress and pressure, but like I want to help people. I think that's why we go into this field. So part of it's like I just want to have fun. I love like the creative aspect of it. I love sharing just parts of my life and fun stuff on there. But then part of it is like, okay, well, what do I do with this platform? I am going through an experience that a lot of people want to know about, which is now the egg freezing. But my experience with eating disorder, my experience opening a private practice, like all of these things are things that I get questions on a lot of the time. So that one was a weird one because I was like, this is like a medical journey I'm going on in real time. Do I want to share this? Do I not? How much do I want to share about it? And I think I just use the community too, and like the encouragement that I get from people saying like your video on something that does not have anything to do with anything made me want to go back to therapy. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like it's just that's the stuff that keeps me sharing and keeps me going because I feel like it's this other touch point besides our clients that helps me feel like I'm like helping people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And that's what I love about social media. I know in the beginning for me, posting about it was really difficult because I'll be maybe too vulnerable online. And what I love about it is how many people will like message me privately and say, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Like, thank you for sharing. I don't feel alone. And then I'm like, I feel less alone in it because even though I know I'm not the only one experiencing these thoughts, I'm not the only one living with bipolar 2 disorder. It does feel really isolating when your immediate circle doesn't relate to that. And luckily, my friends, they don't experience mental health symptoms in the same way, which is really great for them. But sometimes it's hard to connect. It's hard
I'm
to
laughing
connect with
too.
them.
Like so great for you guys that you don't experience this at all, that you've never had anxiety. Like love that for you. But also like what the heck?
It's like sometimes a little more difficult to talk to them because they're like, well, think positive. That's what I do. And I'm like, great. My brain doesn't work like that, but thank you for your advice. I know that's really helpful for you and you're sharing it from a really good place. But posting online has helped me realize that other people are going through very similar to what I'm going through, and they're doing different things. And what they're doing, I can try and see if that helps me. So selfishly, when I'm posting online, it's really to help me feel less alone and learn different things I can be doing because don't really know until you know what works for you.
That's one of the reasons too, when we chatted like off recording and we talked about our stories, I was so, so, so excited to talk to you and to be more vulnerable and continue sharing because you are so vulnerable in a space specifically where I think people are really scared to share, right? Any SI, whether it's passive or active or attempts, like people are really afraid even to say it on their intake form when they come to therapy. And one of the things that I get sometimes on social, because I have a very specific brand and vision for the type of content that I put out in the world, because you can't be everything. But like I knew exactly what I wanted to put out there. People will sometimes be like, you seem so positive. You seem like your life is so great. And you seem like, right, like you don't struggle. And I think I don't share all of the deepest, darkest things that I've gone through to get to this point. One, because it's not the type of content that I make often. I'm not like on that side of TikTok or like in the more serious space. I just want to make people like laugh and be like light and like the hopeful end of things. But I was excited to talk to you today because I was like, I think that I need to continue to share what it was like when it wasn't that way and not just like, and point B, you know what I mean? Like it can get better and you can be successful and happy and like your life can be good. I think when I was struggling and I was in like the depths of it, I would be like, but how? Like, what did you do to get from where I am to there? So I just feel like this is a space that not a lot of people talk about. I'm really thankful that you're like making this space.
Thank you. And it's so true. We see people who've come on the other side of it and they seem so happy and life seems so great. And it's like, I'm so deep into it right now. Does it really get like that? And when we're sharing so vulnerably what it was like and how we got there, I think it really just helps people have that little bit of hope that maybe they're struggling to hold on to. But on that note, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey going from living with an eating disorder, what that was like, and how that led you to becoming a therapist?
Yes, I can. So I think I struggled with my eating disorder basically my whole life. I don't really have an origin story or like a moment that I know some people will be like, I remember the first time someone made a comment about my body or my weight, or the first time I restricted, or the first time that I tried other behaviors. I was always trying everything to make myself feel better. And I think I had some depression and anxiety, or it was like being a teenager. I think both were all like happening at the same time. We had some family stuff going on. I think that I just didn't know how to emotionally regulate. My mom also had an eating disorder, so we know that that's genetic, or yeah, and common in family members or parents in particular who have had an eating disorder, more likely to develop one as a child. But I don't remember any explicit messaging around my body or needing to change my body. That was all either societal, implicit, just kind of like collected through my lived experience. And then I really think I tried to manipulate my body as a way of manipulating things I could not control in my life, not feeling good enough, being extremely type A and perfectionistic, and then not always getting exactly what I went for, which sounds so bratty when you really think about it like that. Like, why can't I just be the best? But I like truly, with like every rejection that I ever experienced, was extremely, extremely difficult for me. Like, I wanted to just be able to fix it and make myself lovable and enough and like worthy. And I think that that's where the eating disorder developed, but it wasn't always about like, if I look better, I will be more any of those things, perfect, worthy, lovable. I don't know what it was. It was like that's where I think people have a misconception about eating disorders, that it's like all about weight or all about looks, when I think it really is just about feeling out of control. So I didn't have any of this language or any of this ability to articulate how I was feeling for a very, very, very long time. Even I remember like fully what I can look back on, like in college in particular, because then I had like moved out. I can look back and see distinct symptoms of an eating disorder in so many different moments. And I sit here now and I'm like, how did I not think that that was abnormal? Like, how did I not have language for it? I would just like pretend that it didn't happen, or like wake up and it was just like a very like living in denial. Like, no, I wouldn't acknowledge that it was a problem, if that makes sense. But I don't think it got to the point where it was like running my life until I moved to New York. And then it was like the pendulum swing of restriction and binging and self-hatred. And like, if you really think about what an eating disorder is doing to us, one of my supervisors, when I was in my when I was getting my LP, taught me that we can't do anything unless the medical or substance use issues are handled, right? So if there's a medical issue or a substance use issue, we can't get to the emotional. And like those two go up here and emotional's down here. So with an eating disorder, you're not giving your brain the nourishment that it needs in order to combat any depression and anxiety. And actually, it's going to create a worse and worse environment. And that's really what happened to me. Um, I remember I was working at the time and I couldn't find joy in things that I used to find joy in. I didn't see any hope or any change or any possibility that I would ever not be on that hamster wheel of going to the gym, trying to eat in whatever way I decided was the right way that week, and continuing to just manipulate my inner world in order to, I guess, try and find happiness in the outer world. But it wasn't making me happy, but I just didn't know how to stop. And then I was so depressed that I was suicidal. And I was acting out and I was drinking alcohol a lot in a way that was not healthy, and like just was not in control anymore of myself. And my best friend said to me, like, I just really don't know how to help you anymore. I found out actually a couple of years later that she had called my other best friend from home, and they had had a conversation with my mom. Like there was so many things going on behind the scenes that I didn't even understand or like wasn't even aware of at the time. And I really did want help. I wanted to like make it stop. And so I was like, fine, like I had admitted at that point that I had an eating disorder. I thought I could fix it myself. I thought I could try to have a therapist in city, and a nutritionist, and like do it all like kind of outpatient on my own. But I succumbed to the idea that it wasn't going to happen here. And I would go to treatment and I would try. And I was very lucky that my mom actually worked for a university in Connecticut. So we had really good health insurance, and I was still on my mom's health insurance because I know that so many people don't have access or the ability to go to a treatment center like the one that I went to. And it was like financially covered for the most part. My parents were very supportive, which I know a lot of people don't have either. And when I went and started telling my still therapist to this day because she was in the treatment center world and then switched to private practice as I was heading out. So I got very lucky. And I was telling my therapist there and the intake coordinator what had happened recently and how I was feeling suicidal. I think that's when they were like, you can't be just in a day program. You have to go 24 hours, 4 weeks, residential. And then I did the whole step down. So that was the whole eating disorder part of it. I also say like eating disorder treatment itself was the start of the work. The work continued afterward. Like the work really kicked back into high gear when I moved back to New York, and I had to like consciously decide every day to choose to not act and behave and let the eating disorder kind of like win by like prioritizing recovery. And I started nannying. I told them I was like, I have no idea what I want to do, but I want to like do something different and go back to school. Like, was like, maybe I want to write about my experience. Maybe I want to, I don't know, do something. I had always come from like the creative world. So like my undergrad was in entertainment. So I was like, maybe I'll like try to like recenter around something else that's like in that world. And then I remembered a moment at treatment where someone asked me if I was one of the therapists. And I started to like wheels were turning. I was like, I've always loved people. I'm a really good listener. I'm really good at helping people. Like I was really good at helping and encouraging all the other girls at treatment. And I was like, maybe I could do this and I could like sort of like give back in the same way that my therapist like changed my life and helped me. Maybe that's something that I could do. And then I was like, maybe I didn't want to do like a residential program or a hospital or like anything like that. But I was like, maybe I could take all the stuff that I've learned about like business and I was working at a startup for a little bit. I was like, maybe I could start my own thing and I could like combine worlds of like some of my life experience in one area and then some of my life experience in another. So I'm still eating disorder specialized and my practice is still eating disorder specialized, which is amazing. But I really now am like focusing on a lot of the business stuff, which is just like, I mean, many years later of working and getting that license and like all of that stuff takes time. But that's kind of it's kind of point A till caught up to right now. And I know I definitely skipped over some stuff, but
You are amazing. That's such a true like testament to that pain to purpose story. And I love how you talked about kind of that misconception of an eating disorder where people think it's always about body image and about your weight. And a lot of times it can also be about control. And I know that's what it was like for me whenever life fell out of control. Example, my parents' divorce. Couldn't control anything in the middle of that, so I starved myself. And I got down to, I think, like 95 pounds. I couldn't go near food without vomiting. It got really, really bad. And people were like, well, just stop weighing yourself or stop looking in the mirror and judging yourself. And I was like, even if I don't do that, I still don't want to eat. I still don't want to put anything in my body. And I felt better when I didn't do that. I felt better when I had this control that I could go to the gym 3 times a day. But if something happened and I couldn't go to the gym 3 times a day, I would panic. And I just don't think people talk about that sense of control and how that really can create a space where you don't want to eat.
hmm I remember calling my mom at one point, leaving the gym, which I think I was like trying to convince myself to run a half marathon or something like that was going on. So I'd been like there for a while. And I called my mom and I was like, I don't know what I like anymore. Like, I don't know who I am or what I like. I just know what I'm supposed to do based off of the rules that I've set for myself every day. And I think that's sometimes the root there too. It's like you don't have any ability for self exploration, or like if your self esteem is so low, there's no like, you're like reaching for an answer to how do I feel better about myself, but that's not the answer, right? You're not going to find it on the treadmill. You're going to find it via like friendships and relationships and like hobbies that you enjoy and like doing all that inner work that tells you who you are and owning it and being happy with it. But I think that when you're that low, like I was like literally like, I don't know who I am. And my mom's like, what do you mean? Like, you're Lauren. Like, but I just didn't feel like myself.
Yeah, it really impacts you in a way that for me, I just remember feeling kind of like you said, like I don't recognize myself and I don't like what I see in the mirror. I just don't like who I am or have any idea of who I am in this moment. I just feel so like desperate to find something to like hold on to. And for me, that was getting myself physically sick to a point where I was like, at least I can control something. At least something in my life has some kind of rules, like you said, that set of rules. And in the midst of that, I lost who I was and I got severely sick. So I'm actually very grateful for this. My college, I went to the infirmary for something, maybe a cold, and the doctor right away was like, you have an eating disorder and
Wow.
required me to get blood work done every 3 weeks, see a nutritionist once a week, and work out with a trainer. And that was all required by the school. And had they not done that, I would not have gained any strength. I felt absolutely so weak and didn't want to try to do anything. I wasn't putting enough into my body that my hair was falling out, that I was not me at all. There was no way to explore who I was or really to be able to get through college successfully when I was just so stuck in the lowest points of trying to have something to hold on to.
And that's the hardest part is like a lot of the times we can convince ourselves that nothing is going on and that we're okay or we're not sick enough. I hear that all the time. I'm not sick enough. It's not bad enough. And sometimes we need a mental health or medical professional to say, no, you have to go. You have to do this. This is your life that we're talking about. You are at risk. Like I was like in the normal BMI when I went to treatment and I was convinced that they were going to say, you don't belong here and reject me. And then I was going to be like, I have no one who believes me. No one's going to help me. Right. Like part of me wanted to go, part of me didn't want to go at all because I was holding on to the eating disorder. And I hear that all the time with clients too, who miss their eating disorder or miss self-harm in some ways. And it's like if you don't participate in it, it's that adaptive coping skill that you learned for so long that sometimes it did make you feel better. So it is normal to miss behaviors that are not necessarily good for you. And it's like interesting to think about it that way. Like it's not the eating disorder that we miss or that I miss. It's like the false sense of control that I got sometimes, feeling like I knew what to do about it. But then it's like it would be 100 times worse after the behaviors were over.
Yeah, it's first of all so true that fear of are people going to believe me? Is it real? When you finally start to like see that this isn't sustainable, and then
Mm.
you're like, can I reach out for help? Because there's so much judgment, or there has been so much judgment in society for so long about reaching out for help. I mean, I think we're really moving away from that, which I love. But for a long time, it was that fear of people are going to think I'm crazy, that I'm looking for attention, that I'm dramatic, that I'm making it up. And it can really keep people from ever reaching out for help. And that's, I know for me, it took forever to, first of all, admit it to myself and then be ready
Right.
to admit it to someone else.
I remember I told my friends at dinner, I'm laughing because I love my friends. It's not, and it's a coping mechanism. It's not that funny. But I was like, guys, I have to tell you something. I think I might have an eating disorder. And I remember one of my friends being like, we've been eating with you for the last 2 years, like, since you moved to New York or however long it had been. Like, they were like, oh, okay. But like, yeah, we know. And I thought it was this like thing that I'd been keeping a secret so well. But then when everyone's like, well, you had a fruit bowl and everybody else had brunch. So yeah, we noticed. And it's hard to say something to a friend like that because you don't know what they're eating the rest of the day. You don't know what their body needs. But consistently over time, I think that people do catch on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the behaviors are more noticeable than we realize. And I know in the beginning, there was a lot of people complimenting me. I was a competitive cheerleader in this tiny uniform, and you look so much better in your uniform. Did you lose weight? So in the beginning, it was like these kind of positive aspects of people noticing. And then it got to, Francesca, you ate like a piece of romaine lettuce and said that was your meal for the day. And we don't realize how much people who love us are paying attention, just like we're paying attention to them.
Exactly. No, it's so true. It's our society glorifies weight loss. I remember getting messages from people from college that I hadn't seen in years being like, "What are you doing? You look amazing." I'm like, I feel terrible. Like am working out a lot, but I do not feel good about myself. But I think that that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in, where it's like it's that reward center in our brain of being like, well, people say I'm doing something right. And if you're a perfectionist and if you've been trying to do something right your whole life, that validation from the world is going to make it really confusing and really hard when someone else turns around and says you absolutely have to gain weight or you absolutely can't keep doing this to your body.
Yeah, and when you're kind of people are celebrating the idea of weight loss, and then you're like, I don't feel great. I don't like myself right now. I'm going through so much, and people are kind of celebrating it on the outside who maybe don't know what's happening on the inside. And then it gets really confusing. Like, should I feel excited and proud? Am I wrong for feeling the way I feel? That's what came up for me a lot.
Right, absolutely. And it's like what's reality and what's not. I think that's the question with mental health in general, no matter what you struggle with. I think like depression, for example, like someone being like, my life is objectively fine. Why do I feel so depressed? And then it's self-blame. And then it's there must be something wrong with me instead of acknowledging and accepting, well, I have this thing called depression. And sometimes it tries to convince me that there's something wrong in my life and I can't control it. And that's not my own fault. Right. Same thing with anxiety. There's nothing to worry about. What's wrong with me? Why am I worrying? I think it's so hard when our perception of reality and our internal reality don't match up. And then the only option is like, well, it must be me. I'm so like I think as humans, we're so hard on ourselves and we just decide that it must be an us problem and we're choosing this or we're making it up or we're not the ones who are in reality instead of acknowledging our experience as a whole.
Yeah, we love to invalidate ourselves, and it's so heartbreaking because, I mean, when I validate myself, I feel so much better. It's really hard to do that. I still struggle with that, but I feel so much better when I believe myself and I believe my experiences, and I'm not sitting there criticizing myself, telling myself that I am ungrateful, that I'm wrong for feeling the way I do. It's, oh, why do we invalidate ourselves?
I don't know if we could all change the way that the brain is structured so that we could accept that two things are true at the same time, that we can be grateful and have depression, that we could, be in a bad mood, but also love our life. Like if those two things or multiple things could all exist at once, we would, as a human society, be so much better off. But our brain does not want it to be that way. So that's why in therapy or, in the ongoing internal work that we who have worked on ourselves can do, we can say, like, both things can be true. It's okay for me to feel this way. Like, acknowledge and validate, and then also say, okay, and what am I going to do about it? Right. But not just one or the other.
And multiple feelings can coexist. And I know it's so hard to believe that sometimes. It's so hard to believe that I can still have a good day and feel depressed and my depression doesn't go away. I can still be excited about something and feel anxious. It doesn't make me wrong for having both emotions coexist. And I just think that it's so hard when we don't allow ourselves to have the full range of emotions. That's part of being human. That is part of being human. And yet we want to kind of cut it in half and be like, choose one.
Well, we only want the good ones, right? Everyone's like, I just want the positive emotions. I'm fine with those. no thank you to the negatives, but we don't realize that the negative ones actually help us too. Every emotion serves a purpose. Sometimes hard to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. And I didn't realize that as much until I watched the Inside Out movie.
Oh my God,
And
love that movie.
right? And every emotion was important to who she was and her story and her life. And that's so true within all of us. Every emotion is part of who we are and our experiences. And if we got rid of sadness, we wouldn't really get to experience joy in the same way. And sometimes we need those sad memories to grow and build resilience and learn to cope and make a change in our lives in a really cool way. So having those negative emotions actually can be really, really good.
Yeah, like what is this emotion trying to tell you? Do you need to make a change in your life? Do you need to just sit and acknowledge the grief that you're experiencing? Can you let it move through you and sit with it for a second instead of, I think there's parenting strategies that have changed over time, but like a lot of people, I think were told when they were growing up, like, don't cry, you're okay, there's nothing to be upset about, like, it's fine, shush, 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 shush. But it's like, no, the kid's trying to tell you something the same way as our internal, like, barometer of emotion is trying to just tell us something. And if we could get curious rather than critical, I think that that would be a way that we could really learn more about ourselves and figure out, okay, if I'm constantly sad every single day from 9 to 5, what's happening there? Maybe I don't like my job, right? Or if I'm really, really frustrated and angry in this relationship, maybe this isn't the right relationship for me, or like asking it to tell us what it wants us to hear from that emotion rather than just shoving it down. It comes back out no matter what.
Yes, it does. And oh, those early childhood messages. My mom used to do this thing where she would go 1, 2, 3, which meant suck it up. And she hates when I tell this story, but there was one time where I was crying for a reason. A lot of times, or not, I was crying for a physical reason that you could see. And it wasn't just Francesca's being dramatic and crying and she's emotional. It was I had broken my wrist and I was crying at cheer practice and my mom's standing there going, and that was just what I was taught. No
Which
matter how much pain you're in, she felt really bad after though. She took me to the doctor. She was like, I'm so sorry. I should have paid more attention to why you were crying. I should have asked. And now she knows to ask. But in those moments, I was taught that no matter how much pain you're in, whether physical or emotional, you have to just suck it up and have that smile on your face and pretend like it doesn't exist. And then when that comes up, one small thing could happen and it would all come up and come out in really detrimental ways.
Absolutely. Asking the questions of other people, of ourselves, just asking, wait, what happened? Are you okay? Do you want to tell me something? What are you feeling in your body? Like those questions rather than jumping to conclusions. And I think that that's what we do in our brains. We jump to the quickest conclusion that we've decided about ourselves. You're too emotional. You need to suck it up, or whatever it is. And I know mine are like, you're a failure and you're stupid, or like, like nobody likes you, like those types of things that it's like, instead of being like, hold on, let's just see if there's anything else going on here and ask a few more questions instead of just assuming that that one truth, core belief, whatever you want to call it, from whatever therapeutic modality is like the ultimate truth. And then we never get out of it. And we just stay in that cycle of thought.
Yeah. I do want to backtrack for a minute though,
Yeah.
because I going back to you sharing your story. For me, I just, again, as someone in grad school to become a therapist, getting ready to go into practicum, and all these messages from different teachers on self-disclosure. And I'm always in trouble for this. I'm always in trouble for my posts online. And I
Really?
love how you're talking about it. So I'm really curious if you kind of remember maybe the first time you self-disclose to a patient about the eating disorder and what that was like for you, kind of normalize it maybe for other therapists who are like, can I share? Should I share? Is it scary to share?
I can't remember the exact first time. I think it might have been after that conversation with my supervisor, though, because I'm very cautious. Honestly, I didn't start social media at all until I was starting my own practice because I thought, well, it's my brand, so I can't fire myself, you know. But I think I was always like a little bit cautious, like, let me just, you know, I mean, not like I had big social media aspirations, but I was like, let me be careful. I don't want to do something that someone else won't approve of. And once I had that permission from my supervisor, I think I even started doing it both in sessions and in my consult calls. If they had something about eating disorders in their thing, I would just say really briefly, I just always want to let you know, and I always tell this to clients who have struggled with food or body image or eating disordered behavior. I have had an eating disorder, so I don't want you to think that I don't actually know when I say I'm guessing you might feel this way. Like this is coming from not just a clinical experience, it's coming from my own personal experience. And then I don't really bring it up ever again, really. Like unless they, ask me a specific question, which doesn't often happen, or, I'll say something like, I know how hard it is when I'm encouraging or challenging somebody to like try something new. I know this can be really hard, but let's try it and let's see. And I think that's what it does. It just changes the idea of us being not equal to being equal, if that makes sense. So I'm not the therapist in the position of power necessarily anymore. Yes, I have a set of skills that the client doesn't have. Otherwise, they would be the therapist in another area, but therapists need therapy too. And I've worked with therapists. So it's like I have the therapist hat on here. So I have all of this professional experience, but I also personally can relate to you human to human. And I really do think that that's what the self-disclosure does. I think that's why I've worked with some people who've struggled with eating disorders for so long because of our deepened relationship and because of actually, well, and I don't want to speak for my clients. I hope they feel this way, feeling actually understood by the person that they're talking to because they know that it's not just from me reading in a textbook about having an eating disorder.
Hearing a therapist say, I know it's hard, and knowing that they get that and that they're not just kind of saying what they're taught to say or what you think they're taught to say. They're reading a script from their mind and actually know, like, no, I get it. I've struggled too, and it like you can see that it gets better by seeing your therapist being there for you and knowing some tools to use and being able to guide you and offer you support. So I think not only does it, I know for me at least, not make me feel alone, but also that I'm just really, really understood. And there's some kind of hope that you've come through it on the other end. Maybe I can too. And seeing that example, I'm really all about that example. My current therapist, her only self disclosure so far has been that she likes Taylor Swift too, which is cool because I love that.
Love.
Must relate to some of these lyrics, right? You have some
Yeah.
feelings, love it. But I always loved when my therapist would say, I've experienced suicidal ideation too. It's scary.
I
I know it's
it's so
scary.
scary. And no, and I've had people say, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, or I don't want you to judge me for saying this. And then they'll say something that's like a passive suicidal ideation. And I'm like, I don't think you're crazy at all. I remember like standing on the street corner and being like, I could walk now. Like, those are just thoughts. They are thoughts. They are passive suicidal ideations. They are not something that I'm going to grab my phone and call 911 on the client for. I'm going to talk through it with them and I'm going to feel as much as I can like I'm validating their experience that they are not crazy. I might not share that exact example, and I might not actually be even saying that I know how you feel, but they, I think, can pick up on it when, or at least can pick up on the sentiment of real understanding when you start to say, well, I imagine that might have felt like XYZ123. How did it feel for you? Or do you feel like it was coming from this area of your life or that area of your life? Because we have experienced our own mental health stuff. We can make guesses from a place of lived experience. And then they're like, oh my God, that's exactly what's inside my head. And it's like, what's inside my head too. But I don't always have to say that to make that point come across and to make it be like absorbed by the client, that like, I know how you feel, I understand you message, if that makes sense.
It does, and that validation again is just so important because kind of that you might think I'm crazy for saying this. They probably haven't really said it to people before, or they did, and someone told them they were crazy or made them feel like they were crazy and wrong for having this emotion or having this passive thought. So to have someone just validate it and understand it in a way that makes it make sense to you really can be the difference between someone seeking help once and seeking long-term help that gets them to the point where they have all the tools they need to be able to get through the ups and downs of life.
I'm so excited for you too, just on the points of like always getting in trouble for sharing or doing what you're doing on social media. Like anybody who's telling you that is behind the times. Your thing is inspiring my generation. Like the next generation wants to see, I think, and the feedback that I've been getting since I've been on social, wants to see therapists who've gone through something, wants to know their therapist, wants to see their therapist have a life, doesn't mind knowing that, I'm freezing my eggs or whatever, whatever I'm sharing. And like the other day I said, I was having a bad day or I was in a bad mood and now I'm in a better mood or something. And I did get like an email from a client and they were like, were you in, I'm so sorry, I didn't ask you how you were feeling. And I was like, no, 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 no. That's not the point of social media and me sharing. I don't want any clients to feel bad for me or feel uncomfortable with the stuff that I'm sharing out there. And of course, I emailed back and I was like, your time is for you. Like, your time is not about me. If I was in a bad mood to the point of not being able to be at the session, I would have not been at the session. I was fine. I was like annoyed about something stupid, right? But I think that that's like the only like murky waters is like if you were to ever share something that would personally offend a client or would impede on the therapeutic connection. But every other time that I've talked to a client about something on my social, it's like a 2-second conversation and then it's back to them. It's a little bit of relatability and then we use their time for what it's supposed to be used for. So I think once you just get through all of these like old school people who are telling you what it means to be professional, you will have a lot of success being who you are out in the world and like finding clients that want to work with you because of that, not in spite of that or because they don't know about that, if that makes sense.
It does. And I know after an intake or as soon as I find a therapist online that I might want to reach out to, I totally look up their social media. A lot of times I can't
Totally.
find it, but I totally do. And I know that that's what a future client will do. And they'll be able to tell if I might be a fit for them. And I'll hopefully learn how to tell if I'm a good fit for them. Haven't started talking to them yet. So we're saying hopefully. But
Oh, but I think what I think is that you're going to be shocked and delighted and excited about the people who are super into it and so supportive of you. And then the people who want an old school therapist who's a blank slate and has no self-disclosure, there's plenty of therapists to go around. There can be a perfect fit for everybody. And it's okay if you don't want a social media therapist. That's totally fine. But if you don't mind seeing your therapist as a human and it actually helps you maybe build that relationship to be closer with them because you see, oh, they like the things that I like, or they even like that's a cute outfit. Like they look like they're having a fun weekend. Like who cares? A lot of people crave that. They think that the relationship, right, should be a little bit more dual-sided. And clinically we can't do that. But if we put stuff out there, they're allowed to seek it out if they want to seek it out.
yeah, and just knowing that your therapist is human. I know for me in the beginning, seeking therapy was so difficult because I was like, they're not going to understand. They're kind of like the way I would see a teacher, right? They know everything. And kind of like this role model that you would look up to, but then you're sharing your most vulnerable thoughts. And are they going to think that I am quite crazy? Are they going to think something's wrong with me? What are they going to think? And to know that your therapist is human, they get it. I think that really just for me at least made such a difference in opening up. And then because I was able to open up in therapy, able to open up online, and hopefully I've helped people. I'd like to think I have. So that's what I love about that tiny bit of relatability that you can bring in the room. But like you said, a therapy session is about the client. So if you see our stuff online, doesn't take away from, hopefully, doesn't take away from the client's time and what they are looking for and what they need.
It's so funny because I'm always like, and back to you. How was your week? Like, I don't entertain it for like more than a minute. I'm like, yes, thank you so much for asking. Anyway, back to you. And they probably laugh like, okay, she's back to business on me. But I know that you've helped people. I've seen the cards. I've seen, like it's another way of reaching more than however many people you will see in your practicum. And I think that social media is a really helpful space for reaching more people that can't afford therapy or need, to feel seen and heard in other ways besides just their therapy session. Like it's kind of an amazing tool. So I think that the world is moving in that direction.
Yeah, it really is. I had a few like teenagers who have reached out and said, my parents don't believe in therapy, so I didn't know that what I was feeling was normal and other people feel that too. And I didn't know what to do. But listening to a podcast episode, I learned a new tool I could try. Or I learned that I'm not the only one feeling that way, or there's other things I can do outside of therapy that's not the only option if it's inaccessible for me right now. And I thought that was so amazing because a lot of people can't access therapy, whether it's financial barriers, structural barriers, or the fact that there's such a high demand and a low supply. So being able to just hopefully offer something of value online can really make a difference for someone who may never have the chance to attend therapy.
Totally. Ugh, that makes me sad though. I wish that our healthcare system was set up in a different way so that it was accessible for everybody and therapists could make money and everything would just be perfect. But I think we probably need more than one podcast episode to get on that subject.
I have faith that one day, we're going to start working toward making sure that behavioral health is covered by insurance. So many people, it's not, so many insurance companies, and I just really hope everyone has access to treatment like both of us were able to receive.
I know. I really don't know where I would be if not for the team and the people that pulled me like out of the environment, got me into an isolated space where I could heal and not be on my phone and not focus on anything else, but just getting better. I mean, it was the reset that I needed. So I always tell people I know recovery and treatment is really scary, and like choosing that you are afraid you're going to give up a lot of parts of your life. Like I thought I was like gonna have no friends and never be able to get a job again. And like my reputation was ruined. Speaking of Taylor Swift, reputation was out at that time. And I would just listen to it on my drive up and on my drive down. And every single day I was listening to what I felt like was a really good representation of how I felt in my life at that time. Because I had like reclused and like nobody knew where I was and what I was doing. Um, but I really don't think I would be here if I hadn't gotten that reset of my body and my mind around food. That was like the start. And then all the rest of the emotional stuff that came after got me eventually here. And I'm still working on myself still, because that's just going to be an overall like goal forever.
I'm so happy that you got the treatment you needed at the time and were able to become a therapist because one, I love watching your reels on Instagram. You always make me laugh. I send them to my friends all the time.
Thank
You
you.
just posted one recently, or it just came up on my reels recently, if you were Rory Gilmore's therapist and going through the seasons. And that was
Yeah.
exactly what I needed to laugh in the middle of
Oh,
my teachers assigning every possible term paper and project. So you really helped me and my friends get through. And as a therapist, you are just incredible. I am so grateful that you came on the podcast. As we're wrapping up, what's one piece of advice maybe you can offer someone who thinks they might be struggling with an eating disorder or are struggling with an eating disorder, kind of take that first step?
ooh, the first step is sharing, I think, with somebody who is supportive of you and will help you kind of figure out your next step, if that makes sense. Whether that's a therapist or a crisis text line, even if you're like really in it, or a friend or a parent or a cousin or somebody in a position of teacher, somebody who might be able to, like you were talking about your doctor, like I was talking about my best friend, somebody who might be able to just give you that extra push to say, this is impacting more than just you. This is impacting your future, or this is impacting our relationship, or this is impacting all of these other things, and can help you find other resources because you really, some people I've heard of can do it on their own. They like read the books and, figure out how to start doing intuitive eating on their own. And that's like very impressive. I'm shocked when I hear those things from either like previous, clients who've worked on it previously, or other people who are like, and then I just stopped. I'm like, oh, really? Like, wow. But getting really self-reflective, asking yourself if your life choices are revolving around food or exercise plans, and whether or not you want to stay on that hamster wheel, or if it's making you emotionally drained, then I would share with a friend or a trusted loved one and see if you can come up with the next step.
Absolutely, because you really don't have to go through it alone. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Good luck with all of your exams and essays and all the things. And you're going to be the most amazing therapist. I'm so excited to watch you grow.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.